Have you ever looked at a regular motorcycle and thought, this is cool, but what if it could fly? Yeah, that's exactly what the minds behind the Volanaut air bike must have been thinking. Except they didn't just think it, they did it. It's called the Volanaut air bike, and today we're going to dive deep into how this incredible machine works, how it was built, who made it, and whether this thing is the future of personal travel or just a wild experiment. Let's start with the basics. The Volanaut air bike is exactly what it sounds like. Part motorcycle, part aircraft. It's been described as a flying bike, but it's not a drone you ride on. It's a bit more advanced and a lot more complex. Now, the company behind this wild invention is Volanaut, and they're a team of engineers and aviation experts based in Europe. Their goal was simple: create a lightweight flying machine that one person can ride, just like a bike. But instead of pedaling on a road, you're gliding above it. They took inspiration from things like paramotors, ultralight aircraft, and electric drones. Then they asked, what if we could combine these technologies into something totally new? That's how the air bike was born. So what does it look like? At first glance, it kind of looks like a small, futuristic hover bike. There's a single seat in the center for the rider. It has a metal frame, 4 large rotors, 2 on each side, and no wheels. That's right, it doesn't roll on the ground. This thing takes off vertically, like a helicopter. It's designed to be flown low and slow, just a few meters above the ground. That way, it stays safer and easier to control. Think of it like riding a bike, but over open fields, trails, or even sandy beaches. But what makes the Volanaut air bike different from other flying machines? Let's talk about how it works. First, it's fully electric. There's no gas engine. It uses powerful lithium-ion batteries to run the rotors. That means it's quiet, clean, and doesn't give off smoke or fumes. Each rotor is powered by an independent motor, and the entire system is computer-controlled. That means if one motor fails, the others can compensate. The onboard computer constantly adjusts power to keep the bike stable and level. You don't need to be a pilot to fly it. In fact, that's one of the best things about it. The air bike has simple joystick-style controls, and the software helps balance the craft automatically. It's kind of like flying a drone, but you are riding on it. Now let's talk about safety, because that's probably your first question. Is it safe? The answer is, it depends. Volanaut has built the air bike with safety in mind. It includes things like redundant motors, battery monitoring, and emergency shutdown systems. There's also a ballistic parachute built into the top, so if something goes seriously wrong, the whole thing can deploy a parachute to bring the rider down safely. But it's still an experimental aircraft. It's not approved for general public use just yet. Test flights are being done in controlled environments, and pilots have to be trained before flying. Let's talk specs. The Volanaut air bike weighs around 220 pounds without a rider. It can carry a person to about 220 pounds in weight, so it's built for a single person. Top speed? About 50 to 60 kilometers per hour. That's roughly 30 to 37 miles per hour. Not super fast, but fast enough when you're flying low to the ground. Flight time is about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on weather, rider weight, and how hard you're pushing the motors. After that, it needs a recharge, which can take a few hours using standard outlets, or faster if using a high-voltage charger. So, where can you fly this thing? Right now, the air bike is still in the testing phase. It's not legal to fly it in most cities or public areas. That's because airspace laws are strict, and for good reason. Nobody wants flying bikes zipping over highways or neighborhoods just yet. But in open fields, test tracks, or private land, it's a different story. That's where the Volanaut team is doing their demos. And honestly, seeing it fly is surreal. It lifts off with a smooth hum, hovers in place, then glides forward like something out of a video game. Now let's talk about the people behind the machine. The team at Volanaut includes engineers with experience in aviation, robotics, and drone technology. Others came from the electric vehicle world. They came together with one shared idea: to shrink down flight into something personal and exciting, not just for military or rescue teams, but for everyday people. That's a bold goal. And building something like the air bike isn't cheap. So how are they funding it? Volanaut raised money through private investors, crowdfunding, and early pre-orders. That's right. Some people have already put down money to reserve their own flying bike. Of course, this isn't something you'll find at your local bike shop. Early models are expected to cost around $880,000 each. Yeah, definitely not your average commute solution, but that price could come down over time if production scales up. All right, now let's pause for a second. Let's be honest. We've seen flying bike ideas before. Some companies have made huge promises and then disappeared. So what makes the Volonaut air bike different? Well, it's already flying. Videos of the air bike show real test flights with real people on board. It's not just a computer animation or a press release. It's a physical, working prototype. That alone puts it ahead of a lot of concept vehicles out there. But Volonaut isn't claiming it's ready for the masses. They're moving slowly and carefully, testing, gathering data, and improving the design. Their focus right now is on proving it works and proving it's safe. That's a smart move. In the future, they hope to offer models for different uses, maybe for outdoor adventures, emergency rescue, or even military scouting. But for now, the air bike is about exploring what's possible. And you have to admit, it's pretty wild. Imagine being able to fly just above the treetops, cruise over a lake, or zoom down an empty trail from above. That's the kind of experience the air bike offers. We've talked about what the Volonaut air bike is and how it works. But now let's dig deeper. How is this thing actually built? Because to make something that can fly safely with a person on board, the engineering has to be nearly perfect. The frame of the air bike is made from lightweight but strong materials, mostly aluminum alloys and carbon fiber. These materials are used in aircraft and high-end bicycles too. They're light enough to keep the air bike airborne, but strong enough to hold the weight of a full-grown adult. Let's talk about control. You might be wondering, how do you actually fly this thing? The rider sits in a kind of open cockpit. In front of them is a pair of hand grips, kind of like handlebars. But instead of turning a front wheel, they control direction and altitude. There's a joystick on one side, which lets the rider tilt the craft forward, backward, or side to side. On the other side, there's a throttle, which controls how much lift the rotors generate. Push forward and you go up, pull back and you come down. But here's the best part. The software does a lot of the work for you. It helps stabilize the craft in the air, even if your hands are a little shaky. It adjusts the motors automatically to keep you balanced. In some ways, it's easier to fly than it is to ride a motorcycle. Of course, it still takes training. You can't just hop on and take off without practice. Right now, they're only working with trained test pilots and a small group of early adopters. So what's it actually like to fly? Well, according to people who've tested it, it's both thrilling and peaceful at the same time. You're not flying hundreds of feet in the air like a plane. You're just skimming above the ground, maybe 10 or 20 feet high. You feel the wind, you see the ground below you, and there's nothing between you and the open air. It's a bit like riding a motorcycle, but without the road. Now let's talk about challenges, because even though this thing is amazing, it's not perfect. One big challenge is battery life. Like we said before, the air bike can only fly for about 20 to 30 minutes. That's enough for short trips or fun flights, but it's not ideal for commuting or long-distance travel. To fly longer, you'd need a bigger battery, but that would make the air bike heavier, which then requires more power to lift, which drains the battery faster. It's a classic loop. Another challenge is regulation. Right now, airspace laws aren't really set up for small personal aircraft like this. In many countries, you need special permits or licenses to fly anything with rotors, even if it's electric. Governments are still figuring out how to deal with flying vehicles that don't fit into the traditional rules. That means the air bike can't just be sold like a regular product. Every flight has to follow specific safety rules and be done in approved areas. So even if you had the money to buy one, you might not be able to use it freely just yet. And of course, there's the price. At around $880,000 per unit, the air bike is definitely a luxury item. But that's normal for new tech. Think about how expensive electric cars were when they first came out. Over time, prices dropped as production improved. Volonaut says their long-term goal is to make future models cheaper, more efficient, and easier to operate. For now, the Volonaut air bike is a glimpse of the future, a working prototype that proves flying bikes are no longer science fiction. They're real, and they're here. So will this become the next big thing? Maybe. But one thing is clear, The Volanaut air bike is pushing the boundaries of what's possible in personal transportation. It's not just about speed or flash, it's about freedom. The freedom to move above traffic, over rivers, across open land. The freedom to fly. And even if it's not for everyone, even if it takes years before you see one in your town, it's still an incredible achievement. The Volanaut air bike may not change the world overnight, but it's definitely changing the way we think about what's next. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more cool inventions and future tech like the Volanaut air bike, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Got thoughts or questions about the air bike? Drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.